so-called radicals, terrorists. We've been dismissed as impossible, as an impossible fringe movement. That's what they called us. But now, we are a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multi-faith mass movement, united in demanding change, in demanding accountability, in demanding that our police, our government, our country recognize that Black lives do indeed matter, and that these are not just words or symbolic gestures, but with concrete actions, and we will measure those with our outcomes. So let me just say, it is historic that this year of all years, we're sending a Black working class single mother who's been fighting for Black lives from Ferguson all the way to the halls of Congress.
It is Friday, August 7th, 2020, everybody. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week, I talk to our Capitol muckraker-in-chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. In this week's show, well, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. legislature entirely fails to come to an agreement on the next COVID-19 relief package, and that means that there will be no help on unemployment benefits for, millions of Americans, and no protection for evictions for, millions of Americans. How about that? Cori Bush, yes, woo! You heard her up top today, won a historic victory in Missouri's 1st District. That was, it was in the primary, but, it was a win against a longtime Democratic machine politician, William Lacy Clay. As she said in her victory speech, quote, "We decided that we, the people, have the answers, and we lead from the front lines." Bush first emerged as a leader during the Ferguson uprising following the police killing of Michael Brown, and she was the first candidate to be endorsed by Justice Democrats. And Bernie Sanders joined in the chorus of progressives on Tuesday night saying, quote, "She is a true progressive who stands with working people and will take on the corporate elite of this country when she gets to Congress." Looks like the squad is getting bigger and bolder headed into the 2020 elections. And this weekend, Trumpy's going to ban TikTok. Yep, and WeChat, because that's a priority at this point. And of course, Chuck Schumer and hopping on there, and the Senate's passing, yes, we need to ban TikTok, right? Not realizing what they were actually doing and why Trump wants to ban it. We'll get into that a little bit. And there was a picture of a Georgia high school reopening, and it went kind of viral because there was crowded hallways with lots of non-mask wearing kids giving us a little picture of what the whole country is going to look like in a couple of weeks. It's pretty crazy.
Get ready.
Get ready. A little closer to home this week. Well, 3 legislators who spent the spring pushing Pennsylvania to reopen, State Representatives Barb Gleam and Andy Lewis and State Senator John DeSanto, received PPP loans for businesses that they or their family members own. State Representative Andy Lewis got between $150,000 and $300,000 loan for his construction company, and Representative Bard Gleam and Senator John DeSanto have family-associated companies that got $1 million to $2 million loans. How about that? That's always nice. Very, very nice. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention this up top, but you see your Kodak story that you were covered in last week is making it to the front pages everywhere this week. Crazy.
About time.
Yeah, it is about time. Let's see what else. Oh God. Well, okay. Look, I'll tell you right now is that our show is probably less deep than usual. In terms of the range of things we're covering here at the very beginning, in part because my week was caught up and totally dominated by what's happening at my university as kind of a microcosm into the whole reopening stuff. So on what was it, Tuesday, Kutztown University President Kenneth Hawkinson doubled down on his back to campus during the pandemic. Right, take that hard right into the pandemic, double down and says this. And I think we have some great audio from him, basically what he said to everybody who was here.
Some of you may die,
but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Yes, that was Kenneth Hawkinson, president of Kutztown University, weighing in on what he thought was absolutely essential to say. Also this week, we had an open letter to Kenneth Hawkinson's was started by faculty, but now it has more than 1,440 signatures from faculty, students, staff, parents, and community members calling on KU to pull back from its reckless reopening plans. And you can go to open-letter.neocities.org and sign the petition. There's a link directly in the show notes. But Tuesday night, in a private invite-only event for VIPs and donors, President Hawkinson reportedly told attendees that he would not move to mostly online classes, even if there was a coronavirus outbreak on campus. The only way he'll shut down face-to-face classes is if the governor makes him. It's going to take Tom Wolf telling me to do it, otherwise I'm not going to do a thing. No. As I said.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Well, on Wednesday, the Healthy Campus Bill of Rights, which that I've been involved in help organizing, got a huge turnout for our town hall on Wednesday. Over 75 people showed up to plan action and express their concerns. We had parents, we had staff members, we had community members, we had faculty members, we had, students, everyone, students, brothers and sisters were there, alumni were there. And some of them had actually been to Kenneth Hawkinson's invite-only kind of town hall the night before. And that's why they showed up at ours. But he said, I can't believe what I heard at that town hall. I'm in with you guys. Right? So there you have it. So now we recognize, too, as well, that Kutztown University community is going to need some assistance. And I think Kenneth Hawkinson especially is going to need some assistance as we go into the fall. So we here at Raging Chicken, and I want to give a special shout out to Sean on this. Thank you, Sean, for this, as kind of some of the ideas around this. So we thought we should pitch in. Right? Because we know there's always a crisis at Kutztown University. There's always a budget crisis. What are they going to do? Well, Kenneth Hawkinson told everybody in that message that he released on YouTube on Tuesday that it's going to take grit and fortitude. That's going to defeat the virus. Yes, indeed. That's going to get us, it's good to be golden. That's what he told everybody. So we thought we were going to help in. So we're going to recommend that people send grits. Right, to Kenneth Hawkinson at Kutztown University. So we're gonna have some links to some suggestions. So, for example, you can send some poultry grit to Kenneth Hawkinson, a nice little 25-pound bag. That's really good. Or you might want to say, look, for that quick pick me up in the morning when he's like facing that, the hacking cough and the respiratory problems, he might need some Quaker Oats 5-minute grits. Or to make sure that we really hold on to the traditions of Kutztown University, we might just want to get some old-fashioned grits. So you want you to click some links in there, maybe send Kenneth Hawkinson to that. You can send it to President Kenneth Hawkinson, 303B, Stratton Administration Center, Kutztown University, Kutztown, PA, 19530. The address will be will be listed in our show notes. And we just think it'd be, everybody's got to pull together in these times, and we got to make sure that everybody's got the grit that they need, right, in order to get through the pandemic. Because, as Kenneth Hawkinson said,
some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
You're going to need your grits, everybody. You're going to need your grits. Yes, indeed. On today's last call, we'll see where we get. Some beer releases. We never quite got that far for today. We're going to get a little...
I don't have a car anymore, so there's that.
Yeah, Sean doesn't have a car. We're going to talk about his car. We're going to talk about... And folks are probably still hearing this today. There's some weird sound stuff that's going on with since last week. And I want to apologize to everybody who listened to the show last week where the intro and the outro were just kind of blasting. It was just, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. So I'm still kind of correcting some of that stuff, trying to get all the levels correct. So it's a weird situation where I'm looking at my levels on my monitors and they all look fine. However, in my ears, I hear that these things are off. And so I got to figure out a way to kind of bring that in to make sure that we're getting the best quality out to you. But anyways, on this week's, if you didn't catch it, on this week's Out the Coop Live, we had a great show talking about higher education organizing during the pandemic. And that was with Tabitha Bernstein-Danis of Kutztown University, Dana Morrison of Westchester University, and Madeline Ochabilo. She is a USAS organizer and a Villanova student. We had an awesome discussion about organizing in higher ed during the pandemic. If you miss a show, no worries. You can go. It's in our regular podcast stream yet. You can check it out. This coming Monday, that's Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be talking about our plans for the K through 12 schools opening in the state. I'll be talking to Steven Singer, author of the book Gadfly on the Wall. A public school teacher speaks out on racism and reform. Stephen also teaches at Language Arts in Western PA, and he is a director of research and blogging for the Committee for the Badass Teachers Association. Stephen and I will be talking about the rush to reopen Pennsylvania schools unsafely during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I know it's something that's on a lot of parents' minds right now, and I know we've been focusing a lot on the live show on the kind of education front right now. That's in part because this is a serious, pressing issue that I know a lot of people are concerned about. I certainly know anybody with kids, I'm one of those people. This is dominating a lot what's going on there, so we thought we want to bring some people on there doing this. We also got a couple leads on a couple educational activists down in the Philadelphia area. We might bring them on Monday too as well, or we might just devote a whole separate show to it that's really kind of devoted to the kind of tactics that teachers are doing, are using to kind of organize and to ensure that if any kind of school launching this fall is going to be something that's going to keep students, community members, teachers, and staff safe. First and foremost, and how to do that kind of most effectively. And you got some awesome educational activists down there in Philly that are doing some great work. Want to remind everyone also to tune in the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can also tune in the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And make sure you download the Rick Smith's daily podcast on iTunes, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcasts. I want to remind you also that if we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. You can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. So go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We're expanding our network as we prepare for the fight of our lives, for the fight of the future in 2020. Our Out the Coop Live is a perfect example of what that expansion looks like. We're all in for the fight, but we need you. We're not asking you to break the bank. We're asking you to become a member for the price of a good beer once a month. Help keep the media in the movement, the movement in the media. Become a member as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. Well, welcome, Sean. I mean, already I've got like 3 tech glitches kind of in this day. One, I kind of cut out our main intro music, so I had to kind of read that without the music playing in the background. Sorry about that, everybody. And I'm hoping that our levels look okay, because they were fine when we were talking about ahead of time, but once we kind of went live, there were some spikes on your end, as well as some low levels on the intro. And I'm sorry that I'm overly kind of focused on this stuff, but it's driving me crazy. I actually had to order a new computer this week because I think that it's either my video card or my processor is going. I had, right before the town hall I was talking about the other night for Healthy Campus Bill of Rights, my computer crashed right, like 3 times, and I didn't get it actually up and working until 2 minutes before we started the town hall. So new computer coming in the mail, but I was just going to get this one repaired, but the place where I get it repaired, they had like a backlog of like a month, and that was just not going to work, especially with classes starting soon. So anyways, I was going to wait till talk about that in the last call, but here I did it up front, but we'll talk about that more later. Sean, how the heck are you, man?
I guess I'm doing good this week. Could be better. Found out my car is a rolling death trap, so I'm unable to drive that anymore.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that you finally have kind of come to your senses and decided that dying is not a kind of like in the cards, and that maybe might be a good time to kind of invest in like the next version of the Sean Mobile.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to be too much rushed into it. But yeah, pretty much like there was the wheel wells had to be a couple of the wheel wells had to get reconstructed. There was that much like rust in them, and they're just like it's not enough to even like support the frame of the car. So like that's not safe. They're like you're one good pothole away from like having your wheel well go through having a spring going through your hood. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's not something you want.
No.
No, I told you when we talked on the phone this week too, and you were telling me about that. It's like I grew up. My mom had a Pinto, a Ford Pinto, at one point, and it was so rusted out. I mean, somebody got it for like $300. I think her brother got it or something like that for $300 just so she had something. It was after that she totaled the car. She hit a telephone pole. Luckily, she was only going about 3 miles an hour. But it totaled this old like Chevy station wagon, and so we got a Ford Pinto. The problem with it, of course, is it was so rusted that we actually had to have like kind of like cookie pan sheets and stuff like that on the floor, like especially in the back seat, but the front seats too as well, simply just so that our feet wouldn't go through the floor and go there. My friends and I, we used to ride in the back when we were going places. We used to lift up the pans and watch the road underneath go by.
So it was actually so the day that my car was pretty much like totaled, for all sense and purposes, Roxbury's car was also totaled.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You guys are like cosmically aligned or something then, I guess.
So
weird.
I'm not gonna get too much into this because it's I'm not gonna put the person on blast because they are associated with they do listen to the podcast. Or they're associated with people who listen to the podcast, so
okay.
It happens, but Roxbury's taking it in stride. But Roxbury's like blaming. He's like, "Manuel, what the fuck did I do? Why you destroyed my car? Like your car gets destroyed, and now my car is done." I mean, also, I guess you got to plug the fact that this is where I guess you got to support having government regulations and forcing people to get their cars inspected on a yearly basis. Because you don't want shit like that happening while you're driving 70 miles an hour on the freeway.
No, exactly. And you
don't want a wheel coming off or something.
Well, but that kind of government tyranny is enough to make you go to the other side. Government like going in and requiring you to get your car inspected so you don't kill yourself and others. That's freaking tyranny if I ever heard it. That's
just as bad as someone forcing you to wear a mask.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
freaking anti-masking fanatics. Well, one of the other things I didn't talk about, speaking about regulations, I didn't put it in the show notes, and that was just because we're a little rushed this morning, getting rolling. But the explosion in Beirut was just freaking devastating.
No,
go ahead.
Talk about regulations.
Right, no, but this is what I'm saying is like what because Trump first comes out and he's like, yeah, we're gonna find who's behind this attack, and people are like, wait a minute, you know this is an attack, and he's like, looked like one, seemed like one, smelled like one, right? But he had no idea.
There's a very big boom.
Just making shit up, right? Just making shit up right off the, kind of.
I guess it's distract people from the Axios interview.
That's the other thing we didn't put in the show notes, and we got to talk about that. Just as in pure fun, and we could almost put that in last call for the day because it was like, absolute just like crazy joy.
That was just like fucking. I watched it twice, and I watched like 5 different like reviews, like half an hour long dissections of the interview from like Pac-Man, Anna Kasparian, Sam Cedar, and a couple of like the Pod Save America people and stuff like that. Like it's just like I couldn't get enough like reaction video of that. Like it's just like how fucking crazy he is.
Well, I tell you that I did not watch the entire interview yet. That's primarily what I've seen.
I watched like 25 minutes of it.
Yeah, I just like it's like. I don't know. I almost want it when I watch it. I almost want the space to have like popcorn and nice beer and stuff because of that. And I think that and that interview has just been. It
wasn't like
crazy.
I thought it was a great interview. Like I've seen like this type of stuff in action, like where the best interviews are often the ones like not where they're asking the hard-hitting questions and just going for home runs the whole time. It's just like leading questions, like 2 or 3 answers, 2 or 3 4-word questions to just keep on pushing Trump. Or like, well, prove it, okay? And that's just to push them along with that conversation. And then like a couple of the Capitol Press reporters are really good at this. Like when the Republicans are just going, like I've just listened to them. Like, okay, well, how's that true? Like, can you prove it? Like, and just like quick little like back and forth like that, and it just catches the people off guard instead of like. I don't know. I thought it was more confrontational, one-on-one like that.
But I think, look, one of the things that has been lacking, especially when you're talking about cable media and any even kind of like online interviews and things like this, is that it's been the lack of like that kind of follow-up, right? Kind of pushing for specific, just to kind of, because really what's at stake in that, because when you ask a hard-hitting question and it doesn't faze Trump. Trump just mouths bullshit. Right.
And that's what they were saying. Like,
well, and that was, and this is what the whole purpose of that interview, I think, what was about. It's kind of like, okay, let's push on this. Let's what does it look like when it follows up there. And the goal was to basically rip any kind of bandage that was left or any kind of seal on the the pretense that this guy has any clue about anything that's going on. And it just absolute bullshit.
When he looked at the chart, you're talking about deaths per population or deaths per cases. Right. I'm talking about deaths per population. And Trump was just like,
he didn't know what he was like, I think Sam Cedar did a good take on that one too. It's like, yeah, it's like, all he knows, like some people showed him a chart that had colors on it and there was a good color on there. And that's really the extent the way he just does not care. He does not care enough to learn this stuff. Right, and
or
whether or not he's capable of is a whole different question. Right, I mean that's exactly, and so this
not just like incapable, but I just think he's not like smart at all. Like he has no intelligence.
Well, he has no desire. Yeah. I mean, whether or not whether it's like genetic or biological or something that's fried in his brain.
Well, I mean, he went to Walter Reed this week to work on his stroke. I had to slide it.
That was good. But I mean, this is happening. I mean, I think that's that much more stark in the midst of, you have like a real crisis that is facing like millions and millions of Americans, right? I mean, you have this coronavirus relief package that is kind of being put forward, right? Of course, right now we're a week out now where that kind of $600 in extra unemployment benefits from the federal government has run out. Right, so that means that's gone out of people's pockets. That the eviction moratorium has been
the
lifted.
U.S. Postal Service is getting destroyed.
Well, this is the other thing that I didn't have time to kind of put it in the notes, but yeah, what's happening in the U.S. Postal Service, right, is monumental. And we should also say though that these are things that are like playbook out of the Republican Party, right? I mean, these are policy initiatives and agendas that are been at the top of the Republican Party's agenda for decades now. And Trump is just doesn't care, and so is letting it roll.
And like the one thing where I don't get is like, how are these companies for the destruction of the Postal Service when like a huge part of their business relies on the Postal Service for last mile delivery? Like you're not going to be able to get something to like middle of fucking nowhere, Pennsylvania, for like the slap a stamp on it. Like the whole entire like our postal system is based on me sending my mail locally, right? That expense subsidizes cross country postage,
right?
Like that's what like. So like if like you're able to get your mail in bumfuck Iowa or wherever or Montana for your same price because of people sending everything locally in the cities and stuff like that. Like it's just like there are addresses in this country where like these companies aren't going to go to.
No, they don't.
Unless you're paying out the mouth.
I mean, even like UPS and DHL,
like last mile.
Right. There's good chunks they just hand off to the Postal Service like in a whole bunch of locations. And if you notice, if you get packages in the mail that were supposed to come, say UPS or something like this, there are times which you can see, right, that there's two stickers on it, right? There's the UPS sticker and then there's the USPS sticker on it, right, which is the United States Postal Service.
Yeah. Because
that's been handed off to the Postal Service to deliver it to, especially in kind of rural areas and kind of mountainous areas and places with not a lot of folks around.
Even here, like in Central PA,
absolutely,
like DHL doesn't deliver, so. I mean, I had something from DHL delivered from Etsy a couple weeks ago, where like it got passed off at the Postal Service, like within their for like the last like 20 miles or something like that.
Right, and it's like what you have. Let's be clear. Is like the Postal Service had been like, first of all, the Postal Service is not a taxpayer funded like organization, right? It pays for itself. And it had been up until kind of not long ago. It had been one of the most 2000, right? Had been one of the most profitable, right, and well-run and most efficient kind of postal services in the world, right? I mean that it went everywhere. But then Republicans went in and they passed a law that basically said that the Postal Service, right, had to fund its pensions for 75 years into the future. Right, so people that would be working at the Postal Service that had not been born yet, they had to fund that, and the reason why they did that is then
they had a certain amount of time to fund it.
Right, and they
only
And they had to basically divert resources from services, right, into funding that. Right, because that became a kind of a new law, and so then Republicans could say, "Oh, the Postal Service is going to go broke," or "Look, the price of stamps is getting raised again." Right? It was a perfect example of the constructed of the shock doctrine, right, where you're basically creating a scenario in which you're making like a public institution look like it's inefficient, so that people will kind of like get on board with kind of making it private.
And it's still the most efficient service.
And it's still the most efficient service in the country, if not the world.
In the world, pretty much.
Right. I mean, if you look, I mean, it's great. Now, and that also has additional implications. I mean, a lot of the coverage that has been this week has to do with that's the impact on voting, because already people are noticing that the mail is getting slower. Right, because the new Trump crony, the big Trump donor who just got appointed to the Postmaster General, basically changed the rules, would not allow any overtime. So of course there's been a freeze on hiring, so they're understaffed. Now you put a freeze on overtime, and so what's basically happening is that when there's additional packages that still have yet to come in, they know it's in there, but that person, that mail carrier, is supposed to go out and deliver stuff. They're supposed to leave those other things behind. They're not supposed to, and if there's more, it doesn't get out to get delivered later in the day. No. They just leave it behind, and that starts to build up. So,
well, I know locally, we have right around primary election, we have a couple of mailmen delivery people like in our neighborhood groups.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, there's stuff fishy going on in the postal service with stuff slowing down. And this is like right around the deadline of the mail-in ballots happening. Uh-huh. There's a lot of stuff that's not moving around. They're like, if you're mailing a ballot, give it to me personally, and I will make sure it gets post stamped. Like, I will make sure like the post stamp is on there this weekend.
Yep. And
not just sitting in some room and doesn't get post stamped. And there are people and it's going to take people like that to save the fucking postal service.
Absolutely.
And hope the union workers that are there and the union.
Absolutely. And so I mean, this is all kind of getting torn apart, like right in front of us. I mean, if Rick, if you listen to Rick Smith's show, Rick has been talking about, let's say, the Postal Service for as long as I've been listening to his show. So, which means as long as I've lived in Pennsylvania, pretty much, right? I mean, he's been kind of focused on the Postal Service, and even when
Sam Sears been focused, the majority report is
exactly.
Also another
exactly.
This is something, Sam Sears talks about
all the time, right? And he had a great discussion with David Dayen this week from American Prospect about exactly this. And I'd encourage you to check that out. And if you're not subscribed to the American Prospect too, as well, you should support that magazine. They're freaking doing bang up work. But Rick would always be talking about this stuff, about the importance of the Postal Service, and would always draw the parallels, because Rick's got a great sense of kind of history and kind of how things have kind of moved up. Looked at what happened after the after the Great Depression, is that the Postal Service became a place for postal banking. Right. The idea was when people could not get access to funds, right, because banks were just going to take their money, is that you had a way for people to basically cash their paychecks and things like this. And it was temporary, for postal banking. And this is something that proposals started coming out after the 2008 financial collapse. And Rick talked about this extensively, had people on the show talking about the importance and how postal banking could be the kind of thing that could help, one, get us away from this reliance upon kind of Wall Street, kind of in our banking and putting us all at risk, putting payday lenders out of business, basically, by having the Postal Service being a place where they could have like low cost, if not no fee banking for kind of communities.
And it's always surprised me that Democrats, I'm sorry. No.
And I would say, and it would, the third thing it would do is that would be another source of revenue for the Postal Service itself to actually improve service. So go ahead. Well,
it's amazing this wasn't addressed after the collapse when Obama had majorities in the House and Senate.
That's correct.
It's amazing. It still shocks me. This was a big enough issue when it happened and people were sounding the alarms. This is a direct attack against the Postal Service. But Obama never really pushed back to roll that poison pill away from the Postal Service. And it's now we're dealing with this 12 years later.
Right. No, exactly.
14 years later.
Right. We're talking about a several decade long agenda by kind of Republicans in the right wing in order to gut financial institutions. To gut public institutions. And then we also see, on the other hand, we see the corporate Democratic wing of the party, right? Obama being this kind of I don't know, its peak, right? Its highest expression, I guess, is how they would talk about it. The failure to really kind of be aggressive in an agenda that would actually, solve long-term problems. I mean, we see these two things working hand in hand.
And speaking about Wall Street Democrats.
Yeah, well, before I get there, let me just go. I want to go back. I want to make one point about this too, where I started this about regulation, about what we saw in Beirut, is that if you follow the story, Al Jazeera was great on its reporting early on when there was like lots of speculation in American cable news about, is this an attack? And Israel has long used this, and other groups have used this as a proxy place for war. Al Jazeera was already reporting that this had to do with actually corruption, lack of regulation, and with really potentially dangerous stuff. And so the ammonium nitrate that was being stored in a storage facility there that exploded, that happened not too long ago, right here in the U.S.,
Texas,
in West Texas,
and we still don't have a competent OSHA in the wake of that.
Exactly, and I was. It was remarkable to me that I was. This is even. I was on Chris Hayes' show. I was listening on this, and there was some reporting about that. They kept on referring to say, yes, this happened in the U.S. 100 years ago, or something like this. They kept on going back to that. I'm like, what the hell, 100 years ago? Why aren't you pointing back to what happened in West Texas? Right? I mean, that just happened. And it was the same, it was almost an identical situation. Like, people knew about it, right? Except Texas had completely deregulated. This guy had thrown everything, all this ammonium nitrate, into this storage facility that didn't have adequate ventilation.
Was it fertilizer?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were storing fertilizer or not.
It's ammonium nitrate, right? So it's that primary ingredient into that, it's basically the stuff that was in the Oklahoma City bombs. Right, the one that blew out the kind of federal building in Oklahoma City of Timothy McVeigh, the white supremacist, American white nationalist terrorism. Remember that. So it was the same kind of deal. So I mean, that should be a reminder to us all. I mean, yes, we should be sending aid, we should be helping out and do whatever we can to help the folks in Beirut. That was absolutely devastating. But we also see this as a kind of this is like the warning shot for everybody that this is what deregulation ultimately gets you. Right, we're seeing this right in the coronavirus outbreak right now, and we're also seeing this in terms of kind of like the Postal Service and all of our services across the way, which is why it's important to get rid of those corporate Democrats, is what Sean was exactly shifting us to. And we saw the huge freaking win this week with Cori Bush.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess this continues the push that more progressives are winning.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, do you think like she would have won, or there would have been like these amount of victories we've had if Black Lives Matter, George Floyd killing did not happen, if that tinderbox wasn't set on fire?
I don't know. I think that
the organizing, like say locally in Pennsylvania, I don't think would have shifted. Like I think Nikhil and Rick Krajewski still would have won pretty handily, but
look, I think she would have had a really good shot at winning anyways, because when she ran in the last round, right, and she lost to him, right? She lost to William Lacy Clay, right? And William Lacy Clay, right, and his father, right, have held that seat for 70 years or something like this, or 50, something like this, right? So it's a machine politic kind of democratic institutionalist, right? And and not necessarily like the worst of the Democrats, right? I mean, pretty strong on civil rights and things like this, right? But an institutionalist and a machine politician, right, was part of that kind of old school leadership. But she did not just go away after her last election loss. She kept on organizing, right? And so whether or not the George Floyd killing happened, I mean, the fact that she, in the coronavirus outbreak, she's a nurse, she's a single mom, she had COVID twice. Right, where she was like she had to recover from that during this period of time. She's been with that community, fighting with that community on police reform, right? Outside the spotlights of the kind of the national spotlights before this election cycle. So I mean, I think she would have probably had a good shot going in. I think once that you had the George Floyd murder, the police killing George Floyd. And then the national eruption. I mean, that seemed like William Lacy Clay was on his heels, right, and could never recover from that.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things that's like also really important about all this stuff. I mean, like you see her like when she was talking about Ferguson, like going back to Michael Brown killing, that is where the Black Lives Matter movement pretty much started.
Exactly.
Like that, and with Trayvon Martin. And it's amazing seeing that arc. She's been involved for such a while and then gets elected with what's going on now. It's going to be interesting to see like the Democrats coming out of the next 3 or 4 years, or this generation of Democrats, and how much more progressive they're going to be because of the Black Lives Matter movement, because of the coronavirus and the multiple like economic catastrophes like we've had to deal with in growing up. I mean, but I think it's also, it's going to be interesting to see like how the Democrats respond to this next year.
Yeah.
I mean, their philosophy is like seats like Connor Lamb are holy grail seats, and therefore because like they're purple seats and we have to cater our caucus to them, when that's just bullshit.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens once we start taking out more of these moderate centrist candidates in super safe districts and stuff like that. Like, I mean, because that's more important. Like, does someone like Connor Lamb have staying power? It's a lot less than like someone like Clay, who's had that seat for 20 years.
Right. Right. And I think that, what's interesting is I do think that this points to it's not only a generation, or it's not only a shift towards the left, it's also a generational shift, right? It's also, which I think absolutely has to happen. I mean, we have to get rid of the baby boomers who have been occupying these seats and kind of like inheriting them like kind of rights to the throne for generations. And I understand that there's histories and traditions. I remember running into this in Allentown, Pennsylvania, for example, doing some kind of organizing there with some students there, and with other different kind of communities, and how there have been established institutions, right? Both say church, say NAACP, and some other kind of like longstanding institutions who were beginning to become barriers to the organizing that was happening from kind of younger folks. Right. There was a quote unquote way to do things, and you had to do this and you had to get their approval first before you would actually kind of move forward. And it was, I always remember that, always stuck in my mind, right? When I would hear from students at Kutztown University who were trying to do some work in Allentown, and hearing it from some teachers unions, teachers who were members of unions in Allentown, who were also kind of very reluctant to kind of like rock the boat when it came to their own union leadership. That stuff is beginning to kind of to dissolve, and I think that's absolutely necessary. I think thank God for AOC and the squad for kind of being kind of beacons to a certain degree for other folks moving forward. But we should also point out that, someone like Cori Bush is so important, because Cori Bush, I mean, she is, proudly calls herself a member of the working class, right? And has the credentials in order to kind of like prove it, and has been in that kind of community. Because there's it's absolutely critical to have kind of more kind of working class people in kind of like, who are running for Congress, both at the state level and at the national level. So kudos to her. Oh, crazy. But did you watch her victory speech at all?
I did not. I saw clips of it.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome. And one of the things that she's calling for immediately, right, is having a $2,000 basic income that's effective retroactively, right, as part of coronavirus relief. And again, there's going to be the establishment Democrats are going to say like, yeah, that's never going to get passed with a Senate with Mitch McConnell in it, right? But the point is that
it takes away a voice of someone who would help, who would stop that from happening. Like, that's where it's important, where these, beating Elliot Engel and beating Clay and beating other establishment incumbents, who prevent that stuff, you take those voices away,
right? Those
roadblocks are gone.
Exactly.
And if you take enough of those roadblocks away, they have to listen to you. You don't got to take them all, but you got to take a nice size.
Right. That's exactly it.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's kind of been disheartening seeing how like the Progressive Caucus has been acting throughout all this, and maybe like hopefully these wins give them a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
Because I don't see like even the Progressive Caucus that's happening right now, it's deciding like to not rock the boat with Pelosi will do this next year.
I don't understand it. I mean, I had in some ways I've been paying less attention to the kind of like to those folks now, precisely because I've gotten so frustrated, right? I've gotten absolutely so frustrated with
like it almost seems like Jayapal and like others have seemed like they're not. I'm not gonna say Jayapal, but like they're not ahead of
Jayapal
the
is probably the only one who's been, I should say the only one, but she's been one of the few, right, that has been kind of pushing things a little bit. But even she's like playing it tame. And I just will never understand the gun shyness of the Democrats to actually use their own power and to actually support their own base and seeing their base as a source of power, not a threat.
I mean, they could be putting out some of the most progressive responses to this pandemic right now and just push the Republicans.
Like they're all, I mean, and they think you have to wait, right? This the kind of, you have to wait till after the election to you're going to accomplish things. But this is when you set the agenda for the election. At the very, let's just talk, just pure like political, like electoral politics here. You want to be out there and being kind of like, setting the horizon and the mission and the agenda. What's the vision, right? That's why you do that at this point, right? And then that's going to actually help you in the short run, get people like unemployment benefits, for example, right? And instead, what do we got? We got Donald Trump now coming out and basically saying, well, if the Democrats can't get on board and can't come to a solution through executive order, I'm going to give people unemployment benefits and I'm going to extend the moratorium on this. So you're going to give Trump the credit, right? I mean, just it's astounding to me. I don't understand it. And, I know that just like, whatever, political insiders who will kind of like say, well, you just don't understand. And you know what? I don't. And that's the way it's going to be. I mean,
You're
I don't
dragging
know what
your
else to say. Yeah, I mean, just come on.
I mean, like they wait until the last week of July to start negotiating.
I just don't understand. I won't understand. So crazy. So you got this nice little. Trump did have a big week though too when it came to TikTok. So that was good. I mean, he's gonna save us from the Chinese by banning TikTok because TikTok's stealing all our data, and we know how important he considers our kind of foreign intervention when it comes here. So that's really what's at stake.
I wonder how he felt with Russia getting a hold of our data, through their what was that program the Mercer was using?
Oh, you mean
Quantum or no?
No.
But Mercer's company.
Yeah. It'll come to me, and we'll come.
Yeah. I mean, you weren't concerned about your data then when you were using
Cambridge
data
Analytica.
Cambridge Analytica. But
when they did stuff, yeah.
But one of the things I think I think it's bullshit. I think people are overreacting to it. I think Democrats are giving him a talking point on this. I think the international stuff might be overblown, but I really think this is a way to go after the Zoomers, the Gen Z types who are using TikTok as a huge organizing tool, and who are using it to fuck with Trump.
Totally.
And it's funny seeing boomers go out there and be like, well, this is about national security. No, it's not.
This is about national security.
No, it's not. This is about them. This is about going after a social media platform because it's one of the most popular platforms for the younger generation.
Exactly.
And it's like you try to explain that stuff like you're involved with social media and communications, and they're like, no, this is about like national security. No, it's not. This is not about it.
The only reason Trump even knows or cares about TikTok is because the Zoomers on TikTok sank his Tulsa, Oklahoma rally, right, and embarrassed him. That is it. That is the only thing that's at stake, and this is payback.
R.I.P. Herman Cain.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, how many times have we talked about on this program and over the years about since Trump has been elected, is that you got to understand the logic is a logic of a mob boss, and that is it, except a bad one, like a stupid one. Right. But it's nonetheless the same thing. The only thing that matters to Trump, right, is fealty and retribution and punishment. That's it. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that. Right. I mean, that's it. And that's the motivating line. So that's why he's going after TikTok. And so to my Democratic friends out there, again, here's another moment of kind of here's free advice for you, right? Free consultation advice, right? I will acknowledge that there is a data issue when it comes to like TikTok, the company, the company runs TikTok, basically collecting data, right, and it being connected to the Chinese government. There are a whole bunch of stuff like that may be particular kinds of issues, right? So I'm not saying that, I'm not putting my head in the sand about data collection, but let's be clear about something. Facebook collects a hell of a lot more data from a hell of a lot more people, and has a hell of a lot more impact on our elections than other platforms. Except Facebook has actually helped Trump get elected, so we got to remember that. But the deal is so we had huge hearings on the Hill this week when it came to high tech, which we didn't talk about that. But one of the things that in those hearings, it became very clear about how dangerous these companies are. Right. So if you're a Democrat, right, and you see Trump come out and banning TikTok, here's your talking point. Your talking point is like, hey, look, I'm the last person that's going to stand up here and say that we don't have to deal with some of the data collection issues in high-tech companies. Look what's happened with Facebook and Google and Amazon today, which we spent on hearings on the Capitol Hill. But we're also going to be very clear about one thing. The only reason that Trump wants to go after TikTok right now is because young people are standing up, and this is him going out to try to punish young people for organizing to defeat him in the polls. And because he's embarrassed, he's making this a national scandal, and we're not going to fall for it. That's what you say. You acknowledge that there might be an issue down the road, but then you bring it into the hearings, right? You don't punish those kids. But you know what? I mentioned this before. Chuck
Schumer's too stupid to realize
he's just a freaking idiot. So I mean, I got talked to you about this, on the show ahead of time. So once I started seeing this stuff, I started I got on TikTok for Raging Chicken, to follow some of these activists and things like this, and I was like, whoa, they're doing freaking amazing work. And as soon as Trump kind of came out and basically said, hey, we're going to ban TikTok. Immediately, like all these major influencers that are there on TikTok are like, hey, Trump says he's going to ban TikTok. Here's my new Instagram. We'll be posting content there too as well. So he takes down TikTok, come over here and follow me. And that's what people are doing, right? So they're ahead. They're ahead of them regardless, right? But let's be clear about what's going on and not get distracted, right? And it was disgusting to me that the Democrats went along with the Republicans and trying to support sanctions kind of on TikTok, but whatever. Last thing I'll say before we go to the break is that there was a frightening picture that circulated, and a story that circulated about the opening day of high school in Georgia. And it showed this picture. You've probably seen it if you've been kind of following any kind of social media whatsoever, of just an absolutely packed hallways in high schools, most of those students without masks, right? That is what we're looking ahead to. And that's Georgia, where you've seen huge spikes in cases of coronavirus, right? And you've got kind of governor's got his head in the sand, and he's actually a pro spreader, right? I mean, he's a pro pandemic Republican, so he's going to send those kids into the meat grinder. So
who is Marquita Bradshaw?
Don't know.
Someone who raised $8,400 for the Tennessee Democratic primary. In the Senate one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is pretty awesome.
she's talking about pretty much was thanking the progressive movement. So the progressive movement's undeniable. Thank you all so much for your support in this victory. It's time to put hardworking people first. Onward.
There you have it. That is exactly what we need. Quick shout out to Brian. Hey, Brian, I saw his comments on our YouTube stream today. He's like, also saying, Facebook is coming out with Reels, right? So this is one way that initially I think Reels was one of those things that was supposed to be kind of competing with some story stuff. But now, again, this is Zuckerberg's actually going to have another platform. It's going to give him more money and more influence and collect more of their data. But at the same time, it's going to give other people an outlet to reach more people. So I'm going to stuff here.
So she is she was the Memphis DSA backed candidate, raised $8,400 against the DSCC candidate with millions of dollars in her pocket.
There you go.
Yeah, this looks like this might be a big shock to activist Marquita Bradshaw scored a surprise victory. Preferred candidate in a 5-way primary. She got 35% of the vote in a 5-way primary. That's not bad.
It goes Tennessee, you said?
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Cool.
She'll face Bill Haggerty. So
in the general?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, cool. We'll dig into it. All right. Well, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. I want to remind you to become a member of Raging Chicken for those $5 a month. Go to patreon.com/rcpress today. And we also want to remind you on Monday nights at 7 p.m., tune in for our live show. That you get that on through the Podbean app. You get our announcements that will come out. Make sure that you kind of sign up, get that Podbean app, and kind of follow us on Podbean, and then you'll get the alert when we're going live. You also follow us on social media, and we'll put out kind of notifications, a reminder. We got Steven Singer, who is an educational activist and kind of author of the blog called Gadfly on the Wall, but his book is Gadfly on the Wall, a public school teacher speaks out on racism reform. He'll be joining me Monday at 7 p.m. And that, again, if you get the Podbean app, you get a live call-in show, too, as well. Thanks again. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. We'll be back right after this message with a little more local focus. We'll talk to you in a minute. One. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken, here with Sean Kitchen once again. So Sean, I mean, I know as you told me before the show this week that absolutely nothing is happening in Pennsylvania this week.
Yeah, no, nothing's happening.
Not really. No, just a joke. But Sean's had a busy week. I've had a busy week. But you do some stuff that's kind of out in front. It looks like we got some more of the kind of pro-spreaders, pro-pandemic Republicans that are. I mean,
there's been stuff going on. Like the education secretary resigned this week, but he's taking a new job at Thaddeus Stevens in Lancaster as the president. Which I mean, like, it's not the ideal time to be leaving, but I'm not going to blame him either for being in state government for 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, also like the salary compared to the bullshit he has to deal with, whereas it's like the president of the school, public service is what it is. It's service. You're not getting paid a lot of money, and probably a better job came along. And congrats on him for getting a spot running a university. He's actually been pretty good in Harrisburg. So,
well, there you go.
Yeah,
that's something.
He's been up to, yeah. Republicans, Tom Wolf wants to shut down PIAA sports, wants to shut down after school sports. Republicans are holding firm on that and saying no because they just want to be a contrarian against the governor on every single fucking thing possible.
We've already seen outbreaks now in some school districts, right, that have started practicing, practicing football. And this is like this.
And one of the things I didn't say the last session, I got before we broke, I got distracted with that primary news. Like this thing about like the Georgia school district or what's happening down in Georgia. This is what happens when your state is a right to work state, and you have no protections as a public sector employee.
That's right.
Like this is what happens when you have school districts that just don't give a fuck about their employees, and you don't have any union rights because you're a right to work state.
Yep.
I mean, like this is that. I mean, like that. But that's what I gotta say. And speaking about people who don't give a fuck about their employees, and wanting to make Pennsylvania right to work state, 3 far right legislators who have been pushing a lot of reopen bills and been pushing the state to reopen, all received PPP loans for the companies. How awesome is that?
That is great. That is great because there's nothing wrong with that, of course. I mean, it's not corrupt. It's not kind of like self-dealing. It's not getting paid.
There's no financial interest.
No. It's just totally above board. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So State Rep Barb Gleim, I think one of her family members, her husband has a construction company, bulldozer company in Carlisle. Mm-hmm. She got $1 million to $2 million grant. John DeSanto, who inherited this company, him and his brother inherited this company, Triple Crown, from his father. Inherited $1 to $2 million, and a lot of people were upset that that got published because DeSanto hasn't technically owned the company since 2014 or 2013. Sold all of his interest in it, but he's still pulling a income from it. It's listed on his statements of financial interest. So there's that.
There's that. I'd say, well, that's you got to help everybody, Sean. You can't.
And then one of the construction companies that Andy Lewis owns also got $150,000 to $300,000 grant. I think in years past they might have gotten away with this, but this is going to make their election chances a lot harder, especially for DeSanto and Andy Lewis, who are already in close races to begin with, and people are paying attention to this, and it seems like piss off a lot of people in the district.
Couldn't happen to a nicer couple of guys, right? A few guys.
Yeah.
Good. No, and I think again, it's funny. It's it's
like these are the people who are going to get all the money from the Commonwealth Foundation,
right?
From Matt Breed, who pushed the far right agenda.
Matt Breed, is he that bald guy?
Yeah. He's actually the one that wore that maxi pad on his mouth.
Oh, right, the maxi pad bald guy.
Yeah.
Right, that wasn't helping at all with the reopen rallies and things like this with the white supremacists and things like this in the past. Not that guy. I mean, he was that. That's the guy who was not helping with the white nationalists and the reopen protest. That guy. Okay, yeah.
He's also going to spend $10 million this election.
Yeah, he is. There you go.
So, in his own words, when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Yep. Exactly. 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 So, if you're going to put a maxi pad on your face, you got problems, the other problems that I don't know what to do with. But whatever. No, you do what you do, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah.
That's your idea of fun.
I would love,
okay.
I would love to see candidates retweet the picture of him telling their constituents, hey, we got these attack mailers in today. And this is the person who's sending them out.
Yeah, exactly.
And just as a way to fuck with them online and also combat the bullshit.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Because it's coming. It's going to ramp up. It's going to ramp up pretty severely. But I do think it's a good point. It's another point in time, these folks may have gotten kind of this stuff might have happened and nobody would pay attention. But we've talked for a long time with Raging Chicken, both in Raging Chicken Press and here on the podcast, about how Pennsylvania has had a kind of long history of being kind of one of the most corrupt kind of state legislators that are out there. Look, you can't top New York, but I'm just saying. I mean, come on. It's like, but still, I mean, the whole idea of the March on Harrisburg was so much about the kind of self-dealing and gift giving and that kind of stuff, about wanting to make sure that that we bring kind of transparency and get rid of the corruption in our state capitol. And this is just kind of like, here you go. These are folks that have been around and think that they can just get paid because that's what they're used to doing. And I'm so glad that this is going to make it the light of day.
Yeah. No, there'll be more coming.
There'll be more coming. Stay tuned, everybody. Yes. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I have with the state, what's happening here in PA.
Oh, cool. Well, it's Sean's nap time now, so I'm going to talk a little about what's happening at Kutztown University. But I won't go all. I mean, first of all, I want to thank everybody that did show up to the Healthy Campus Bill of Rights town hall on Wednesday. I mean, it was a group of people that I've been involved with, or kind of doing some of the organizing kind of around that stuff, about putting together a kind of a broad vision of what it actually means to actually have
an actual town hall.
Well, first of all, have a university that foregrounds a different vision for a university, right? Where you have healthy working and learning conditions. You kind of have a university that's kind of investing in the financial help of the community. Like that includes everything from like the university, who the university purchases from, to dealing with kind of the crisis of student debt, and also a university that would have would invest in an infrastructure that is capable of matching the climate crisis, right? So that's the Healthy Campus Bill of Rights got its start last spring, basically with that in our mind, right? We had our first town hall then. But that was before the coronavirus kind of outbreak and crisis that hit us, until the pandemic went crazy and everything got shut down. Right now, we've been working over the summer, and our group has been expanded with, dealing with the most pressing issue kind of right in front of our faces right now, which is the plans for Kutztown University to kind of reopen for face-to-face classes in the fall. And the way that we've been talking about it, I'm borrowing this from, I think, it's an interview that Sam Cedar did with somebody I don't recall at this point, but I think it was right on the mark, was that you have, and he was talking about in terms of the national politics, but I think that it's a good one. He was saying that, well, and the idea is that we have an acute condition right now, the acute condition that has to be addressed in order to kind of like save our lives, right? We don't address this, it's going to be like severe consequences. The acute condition is the reckless plan by Kutztown University administration, particularly President Hawkinson, to go forward to the kind of reopen the university for face-to-face classes, right?
Do you think he saw the BuzzFeed article?
Who the hell knows? I should send it to
him. You think he saw the photos of what happened down in Georgia? I mean, what's like so good about this, like we're 2 weeks, 3 weeks behind from everyone else doing this.
Right.
And I could totally see this becoming at the point where they just pull the brakes on it in 3 weeks, because there's just like powering through a pandemic is going to be your response, really?
Well, look, I mean, I think look, I'll be honest with you. Is that I was when
what happens when a professor dies?
Well, you're right. Exactly. I mean, look, someone's going to die. Someone will die, and this is what I said when I watched his video when he doubled down on kind of reopening in the fall. I put out the kind of post on Facebook and Twitter and said, I want everybody to remember this man, because this is the man who is responsible for the deaths and hospitalizations that are coming. And I don't want anybody to be able to deny it. I don't want him to be able to kind of move away from scrutiny. He can't throw his hands up in the air and say there was nothing we can do. He made the choice. Now it is on his head. He is the face of whatever happens to people, whoever gets sick, whoever dies, whoever gets hospitalized and has long-term issue. It is on his head.
I mean, he seems like he wants to be worse than Ceballos.
He's making a play for it. That's certainly the case. That is certainly the case. I mean, I was surprised, but let me get back to what
I mean. Ceballos doesn't have fucking up a pandemic on his resume, so
no, he doesn't. He just has to like fucking up the finances of the university on his resume. But so here, or pretending to do whatever, we can get into that at a different time. But I want to finish my point there. So that's the chronic condition, and then. That was the acute condition was what kind of going back, but the chronic condition is the underlying kind of, the the shifting of priorities away from education, away from the academics of the university towards the beautification of the campus and the
And he
branding
fucking
of the
mentioned it on the thing
in his
the video.
He says
in his video, like, he needs the student on campus experience. Like,
one of the reasons he says
we need to fill the housing.
That he says this explicitly. He says in the middle of his speech about why he's doubling down on how we have to go back to face-to-face classes. He says, Kutztown spent like time and money rebranding the university to say it's good to be golden and what our traditions are and all this, and we have to keep. So it's like this is a PR move on his part, in his mind. And what you've heard me say this before on the podcast, but it is absolutely true. When the universities have shifted and they've bought into this logic that you have to kind of market the university like a consumer product, and everything is about the market, and you invest in public relations and consultants to show the image of the university, and that is what attracts students. And then
there are students that are paying $20,000 to be in these Golden Bear apartments, and we're fucking filling them, damn it.
No, that's right. And that's basically what he's saying.
That's pretty much like what he said. Like,
exactly.
Like, I mean, when I heard that, I was just like, no, this is about, like, you have developers, you have people who need shit to get paid. And I guarantee you there's probably developers, like Kutztown doesn't run the Golden Bear apartments. It's contracted out through like an outsourced firm, like with the contractors and stuff with that.
Right.
So
and if anybody really wants to get in the weeds on this, go back and read stuff on Raging Chicken about this stuff, about how all that garbage was financed through these kind of like sketchy loans through the foundation and all this other stuff. But
that go back to people who own the companies.
Exactly.
Like, like I can guarantee you someone like Guido Pacini wants to fucking make $1 million off of writing parking tickets.
You think?
Like,
no self-dealing there.
Yeah.
So what happens? So basically, okay, look, so he doubles down on this stuff, and so I have to say, look, 9 out of the 14 universities are now kind of primarily online. All right, and one after the other has been going, and I have to say, and I was on calls with other faculty members and students and staff members, and in my gut, I had felt that this past week, is that Kutztown was gonna join the fray. That there was gonna be a meeting of the minds of the presidents, and they were gonna say, okay, look, we all need to be on the same page in this one. We cannot afford to be the epicenter of the next outbreak, right? But instead, like Hawkins, and I know he's stubborn egomaniac as he is, right? I knew that he was gonna actually come out, and it was gonna be hard for him to actually admit defeat, because if you remember, back in the spring, right, when the pandemic first hit, right, and the universities had to shut down and was ordered by this stuff, right, he was still insistent that we're going back. And it took the governor saying no, right? And that was the only thing that was the only reason why Kutztown didn't go back to in-person classes, because he did not want to give up the money that students were paying in housing and fees. He wanted to keep that for the university and want to stay strong. So whatever. So a couple things. So we had this town hall on Wednesday night, and it was amazing, right? The Healthy Campus Bill of Rights held that town hall. We had about 77 people show up, and we had breakout rooms, and I was astonished by the number of parents, the number of community members that were kind of there, in addition to students and faculty members that were on board too as well. The stories that we heard from parents about their dealings with the university was amazing. So now we're looking forward to put even more pressure going forward on the university there. Mm-hmm.
So how about like Tuesday's town hall? Like, were they able to ask questions?
That's what I want to get to. So here's the thing. So what happened now our town hall, the Healthy Campus Bill of Rights town hall was set up kind of like a couple weeks ago, right? So this is we've been in the planning for this. We had a previous town hall before, and then we'd always planned to we're going to come back after we've kind of like built from that and followed up with more people. We're going to have a second town hall, as part of kind of organizing to kind of keep the pressure on, but also thinking about what do we do after the pandemic, kind of organizing for the long haul. But so there's that. So right after we announced that we start pushing out that we're going to have our town hall, it turns out that there's another town hall that's happening, and this one's being hosted by KU Foundation, right? And the KU Foundation is like, the people that raise money for the university. It's where they recruit donors, right, and VIPs to kind of schmooze with it so they can raise money for the university, right? That's a KU Foundation. right? And we kind of find out about this town hall, and it was a little kind of perplexed by it. The only reason we found out about it initially was because an administrator happened to be talking about it offhand. And then there were faculty members, like, and chairs of departments and things that were like, wait, you said what? What town hall? Because faculty and staff members have been asking for this kind of public town hall for a long time because we have questions, because they won't talk to us, right? Sure, there's a union representation, behind closed doors kind of like representation, but that not public town hall stuff, right? So we said, wait a minute, with this town hall. We find out about this town hall, and it says it's being also the foundation. You go to the foundation page. There's no indication that it's there. You go through all our emails, our spam box, nothing there. We start asking around. Nobody's received an invitation. Reason why? Well, we found out that it was an invite-only town hall, which is kind of funny. A town hall without the constituents, right? It's kind of an amusing kind of idea. It was really more of kind of like a club, right? It was more like an invitation to the club. I keep on thinking of, Mitt Romney fundraiser. We was talking about the 47% of the unwashed, right? And that's kind of the thing that I had in my mind. But so it's like donors and VIPs and special select people who have given to the university are invited to this town hall to find out what's really going on. Initially, we had thought that, Kutztown University had fumbled because it turns out that in their planning about the return to campus, they never decided that it would be a good idea to consult the, mayor of Kutztown. Right? They thought it was like, oh, the mayor of Kutztown. It was kind of like, oh, what do you, what's going on? And it turns out that Tuesday nights at 6 p.m., when this town hall was, is the same time as the Kutztown's borough council meeting. So initially we thought, oh, maybe this is like a face-saving move, that they're going to try to bring the borough council and have this joint thing because they realized that they screwed up and not talking to, the people at the university. But got confirmation through back channels that the mayor did not know about the town hall, right? So not only did they not include elected representatives of the borough of Kutztown or Maxitowney Township, they just kind of just went ahead without them to kind of move forward. Whatever. Didn't even tell them what was going on, and they scheduled it at the same time as their meeting, so they couldn't even come there if they wanted to. So there's that. So at that meeting, now again, we've been doing some organizing, and there's a bunch of people that actually got access to that thing. Turns out there's a bunch of donors and parents and things like this that did get invites, and have not exactly been thrilled about what is happening with the university. And then we've heard for some other people that originally were told that they were going to invite, but they had to submit their questions ahead of time. And when they submitted their questions that were somewhat critical and challenging, that invite never showed up in their inbox. And when they inquired about it, they still didn't get the invite, right? So they were looking for a very controlled environment in which they were going to give their special people special access and discussion to Hawkinson. Now, it turns out we had some parents at our town hall that attended that town hall, right? They did get the invites, told us about what happened at that, and it was remarkable. Right. This one parent in particular told a story about, when one of the questions was, if there is an outbreak of a coronavirus on campus, will the university go to all online and switch? And Hawkinson said no. President Hawkins said, no, if there's an outbreak, no. The only thing, and this is what we were told by several people, that he said, the only way that we will shut down is if the governor forces us to. That's it. So this dude is all in.
Ego tripping.
He is all in. He is so far in on this stuff. And if you watched his announcement, right? And I should say this for behind the scenes stuff a little bit. His announcement came about an hour and a half after this petition or this open letter, this call was circulated to the faculty listserv. Right, so that gets posted to the faculty listserv, and then an hour and a half later, he's out there all pissed off, right, giving his little grit and fortitude speech, right? So the reasons that we have to return is because we have to show grit and fortitude. And I thought one of the most disgusting aspects of what he did there is he said that we have, it's basically the stock of our students. They come from families of coal miners and farm workers and mill workers who have shown fortitude and grit on the job, and we have to go back to do the same thing, right? So it's like this. Let's pretend that he's an operator of a coal mine. He's basically saying, yeah, we know that a lot of these workers are going to get black lung, but we are not going to take the precautions that are going to ensure that they're going to be safe. They're going to have to show grit and fortitude and get their asses back in the mines. Right? That's the legacy of Pennsylvania, about how that grit and fortitude thing has been used as a way of manipulating and punishing and shaming workers. And the fact that he was going to use that as a way of shaming faculty and staff members and students and parents who have expressed their concerns was amazing to me. And that went even beyond what I thought he was capable of doing, but he did it anyways. Right? So the one thing I have to say is that when that video went out, right, I thought he thought this was going to shut everything down. Nope. You know that little open letter I was talking about? The little open letter that went out that was the faculty listserv, and it was going to begin to be made public on that Tuesday. Well, after his video came out, the numbers of signatures on that thing went crazy. Right? So now, as I said, before the show today, over 1,440 plus signatures are on that from students, faculty, alumni, parents, community members, staff members, calling on Kutztown and Kenneth Hawkinson to basically turn back from the abyss. And it's clearly stated in that, right? The title of it is like, the acceptable number of deaths is 0. And if he fails to act and fails to do what other state system universities have done at this point, it will be the basis of a vote of no confidence. Senator Judy Schwank has been included on this, and now she has been contacting the universities to find out what their plans really are. There's been stories now that have been out in Penn Live and Reading Eagle. There was a broadcast at WFMZ. I happen to be listening to iHeartRadio's kind of like consolidation of Pennsylvania stories this morning, and there was a story on that about there. And this is starting to get picked up in a kind of national press. So Kenneth Hawkinson, president of Kutztown University, is basically doubling down about going back to campus in the pandemic, and he's willing to be a national figure, right, for the recklessness of going back to face-to-face classes in the fall. He is basically the kind of like the anti-maskers of higher ed. Yes, and sure enough, say with CDC guidelines and all this stuff, but it's been amazing to me. So that's kind of where we are. So the organizing is continuing. We encourage everybody to kind of email Hawkinson at kutztown.edu and tell President Hawkinson directly your concerns about the return to campus. We also encourage you to sign on to the open letter if you have not already. That open letter can be found at the bottom in our show notes. But I'll tell you right now, it's open-letter.neocities.org. If you click on that, that will take you directly to the petition, or you can just go to our show notes and click there, and please sign on. Here at Raging Chicken, right, as kind of separate and distinct from kind of these other kind of bodies, we want to kind of do our part too. So like I said there, we thought kind of like something that might be useful to do, right, as part of the organizing efforts, because, you know, we're kind of a little bit more smash mouth than some other folks here. We thought kind of a nice little campaign might be to ensure that Hawkinson gets his fill of grit and fortitude, particular grits. So we thought it might be a good idea for anybody who's listening to this podcast, and we're going to see this kind of posted on our social media sites too as well, to send President Kenneth Hawkinson at Kutztown University some grits. So you might choose, for example, we've got some links for this down in the show notes just for some ideas. You might have some, say, poultry grit, right? You know, things that chickens need in order to kind of digest things. There's like 10 or 25 pound bag of poultry grit. You could send that to the president of Kutztown University, Kenneth Hawkinson. Or, you know, people are going to need a quick pick-me-up in the morning to get that grit to make sure that, you know, they know that they're going to be walking out there into a pandemic, but they're going to get their quick grits. So you might want to give them some Quaker Oats, you know, 5-minute grits, right? Or, but more, keeping in the traditions of Kutztown University, you can send some Quaker Oats old-fashioned grits directly to President Kenneth Hawkinson. And President Kenneth Hawkinson, you can send it to him at President Kenneth Hawkinson at 303B Stratton Administration Center, Kutztown University, Kutztown, PA 19530. And if you need that information directly, you can go right down into our show notes and you can send it there. Send Kenneth Hawkinson all the grits he could possibly eat, or all the horticultural grit or poultry grit that he can fill his face with, as you could say. So there we have it. That's pretty much what's going on here. I'm absolutely, this is one of the reasons why I'm a little bit kind of discombobulated today, just because trying to get this show up and running after kind of an amazing week of kind of meetings and organizing and things like this, and seeing this, like the explosion of kind of support being shown by faculty members and community members and students and their brothers and sisters and alumni, all getting together, basically saying we have to do better, and we have to keep everybody safe. And the other thing that came out of the town hall meeting that I want to say, our town hall meeting, Healthy Campus Bill of Rights meeting, shifting a little bit over that way, was that people understood that the conditions that brought us to this point, very much like Trump, the conditions that brought us to this point are not specific to the coronavirus. This has been long-standing problems that we have to organize to kind of do things differently long-term. So that's where I kind of come out of it, Sean. Wait, I have to wake Sean up from his nap here for a second. Hold on a second. All right. Maybe this will do it.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
But yeah, so Sean, anything else you got to kind of throw in for here before we go to this week's last call?
Not a whole lot. Just get a tweet up there, snarky tweet, clap it back at someone.
Clap it back.
Yeah.
So I mean, I am angry at myself. I have to say this is the last thing I'll say for this. I'm angry at myself that I actually believed that Hawkinson and the administration of Kutztown University were going to do the right thing. And I really thought that, okay, look, yes, he's going to hem and haw, but they're going to do the right thing with it. No. I do have to mention this before we go to break. I said I was going to say one last thing, but I'm not. But I was really, I got a nice little email this morning say, hey, did you check out your Kutztown University email today? I said, no, I hadn't. So I went and checked it out. So Ann Zayatz, who's the provost at Kutztown University, she has been sending the kind of like Kutztown green phase coronavirus updates. And usually what that consists of is inspirational Pinterest quotes, right, from people like Lao Tzu and Winston Churchill or kind of some Buddhist monk or something like this about how the
we will fight the coronavirus on the beaches.
Yes.
And on the
right.
shores.
I mean, there's I'm compiling a list of these inspirational quotes, and I'm throwing it through a kind of an automatic computerized reader of text, a text reader, and then we'll have that out. And hopefully I got someone else is working on putting that to music, so it should be fun. So anyway, she's our provost, and she sent out her update for the Green Phase chat feature today. Was this Kutztown Green Phase? We find out that as part of Kutztown's preparations to keep everybody safe, they've decided to make sure that everybody is going to be able to get answers to questions, because apparently they're getting flooded with calls from parents and concerned people about what happens when, what happens if this, what happens if that. We had people at our town hall the other night, for example, who went and asked, well, if somebody gets sick, if my son, right, my daughter gets sick, what happens?
Did you see that like Penn State's making students sign like a liability waiver?
Yep.
Before they go back?
Yep.
That's fucked up.
That's fucked up.
Yep. I don't know if that's going to hold weight in court, but like...
Well, we'll find out. If they want to get sued, have at it. Here we go. But
I mean, yeah.
So they went, for example, the university thought, we cannot possibly find the money to ensure that every single clerical staff worker who's on campus has a plexiglass shield in which to kind of like keep them safe. That's just too much to ask. Right, so you have to go through like a 5-step stage to get to the point where you get an approval to actually get that, and you have to prove that you actually need it, because plexiglass, stands are, it's gonna break the bank, right? But then we find out that they are doing their best to keep us safe, right? Especially because there's probably a lot of clerical staff that don't want to be on campus anymore, right? Because that they're going to be threatened. But also the university does not want to hire actually living, breathing people, right? They're willing to spend all sorts of thousands and thousands of dollars on these little technological owls kind of conferencing services to live stream stuff from the classrooms, right? In ways that are kind of, no one's been testing it, no one's been trained in, but whatever, we're going to do that. We find out with the newest rollout, right, to respond to the coronavirus thing is to basically include a new AI run chat feature on its web pages. And she gave us a list of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, 20 or so pages that have a new chat feature that you can now have a direct conversation with an artificial intelligence bot to get answers to your questions, right? I asked a couple questions of it this morning, and it didn't have the answers that I was looking for. I was asking about, I don't know, Kenneth Hawkinson's state of mind. I was asking about the what was going to be the provost's next inspirational quote, and does she have a Pinterest page? It couldn't answer those questions. I was really upset about that. But that's the AI. So the university has spent resources and time instead of living, breathing human beings in employing an AI bot to answer the flood of questions that people have about how they are going to be safe on campus. I don't know what you do with that. But the disregard for human beings in this administration is beyond what I thought was possible. There are stories that I do not have permission to share at this point, that at some point I hope these people come forward and tell their stories about what their experience has been like dealing with this administration and trying to kind of deal with the real threats that they have to their own personal safety and the safety of their family. And they've been rejected by being able to go online. But we will get to that when we have the permission to do so. So strap on your AI, everybody. Get your bots rolling, because we're all going in for the pandemic. Get your grit and fortitude. And remember, yes, you might think you're a little uncomfortable, but message from Kenneth Hawkinson before we go to break.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. We'll be right back with this week's Last Call. Welcome back to Raging Chickens Out to Coop podcast. It's our last call. Usually we talk about space news and beer news and things like this, but I'll admit right off the bat we're a little light on the entire last call segment, so we're just going to talk about some fun stuff. One thing I didn't mention, I should, I just if you all remember, you know, Sean and I have been, especially during the pandemic, we started kind of talking about TV shows and things like this that we've been watching. And for those of you who've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll know that I went on this kind of like Scandinavian TV kick for quite a while. And there was this one show, it's called The Rain.
I thought you were about to say Norseman.
No, we'll get to Norseman in a second. But it's called The Rain. And it's, I want to say it's Swedish. I think this actor is Swedish, but it might be Finnish. I should have had this. I should have thought about this ahead of time. But I just found out last night that the third, I believe it's the third season of the final season of The Rain has just got released on Netflix. And if you have not watched The Rain, it is excellent, right? It is a kind of like post. There's been this huge outbreak. I mean, again, I started watching it before the pandemic, right? I was watching it well before then, but this was, there's a pathogen that is released that basically wipes out a good chunk of the population, and it gets carried by the rain. So that's the kind of like the backdrop, and it has everything that you'd want in one of these kind of like, you know, kind of post-apocalyptic dystopian future kind of things. It's got kind of, you know, the corporate malfeasance. It's got kind of like really great acting. So it's in the sci-fi vein. I am so excited for that. If you have not checked out The Rain, I have not watched it. I've thought about it that much because it's been a while since I finished the last season. But I hadn't thought about going back and watching that in the midst of the pandemic and how that might change how I'm watching it. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays going forward. So I'd be highly, highly recommend that. It's streaming on Netflix. It's called The Rain, and you can have it. You can listen to it in a dub version. If you don't mind subtitles, I would strongly recommend watching it with the subtitles. I found that much more powerful. I did kind of both versions early on, and I like the subtitle version much better. The actors are phenomenal. The woman who's the kind of the lead actor in the story is just absolutely great. She's a Swedish actor who I guess has quite a bit of fame over there in Scandinavia. So, but she's great. So that's my one kind of streaming tip for the weekend. But and you finished The Norseman, from what I understand.
I have not. No.
Oh, you've not? I thought you were going to finish.
No, I didn't finish. But I was on season. I'm still on season 2 or 3. But
I feel better now.
It's slowly getting there. Well, like this whole season's a prequel to like the first season.
Oh, really? See, I'm
yes.
not even in the second season yet. I haven't finished the first season yet.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend watching the second season. I thought you were about to say you watched it, but
no, not yet. With too much other stuff going on.
Yeah. I've been watching the Flyers and the Sixers this week. So
yeah, I did see that you were back. And, supporting the kind of the back to work among the sports thing there this week. Yeah, I saw that.
It is amazing how like these fucking like this didn't have to happen.
I know.
Like we are in something that did not have to happen.
I know.
Like, and it's just like I think like that's what we have to like message to people. Like this should not have happened. Period. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just like it's. Yep, I mean, Colleen put a really good post on Twitter the other day. She's like, "This didn't have to happen," and it has me pissed off ever since, knowing that.
It's like a devastating shame. I mean, we're at 160,000 deaths, you know, at this point. I mean, I'm not laughing. I'm just like, it's just like incredulous. I cannot freaking believe it. And there are countries all over the world right now that are finding their way to, you know, there's no return to normal anymore. Let's be clear about that. But they're finding their way to like having a society and building the kind of civic institutions again.
Well, you look
dealing
at like
with the pandemic.
You look at like what Canada's doing, right? Or the NHL and the NBA. Like the NBA having the bubble in those cities like in Atlanta and Orlando are two things like
Yeah.
but like most of the hockey games are being played in Canada right now, where like the cases are like astronomically low.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it's just yeah. I mean, no, it's ridiculous. This didn't have to happen. Yeah.
It is a shame. It is a shame.
And we're gonna have to wait till November. So,
well, no, January.
Yeah, we'll have to wait till January.
That's what people like. I hear people say like, well, at least the election's coming in 90 days, less than 90 days now. I'm like, yeah, but the government doesn't change until the end of January. So yeah. we have more months ahead of us in the pandemic than we have behind us at this point, or just about the same.
Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, that's what we're talking about. This is not getting better.
5 months in.
Huh?
Yeah. We're 5 months in already.
Yeah. And let's do the math, right? It's August, September, October, November, December, January. 5 months out. 5 months plus. So it's actually 5.5 months before we see a new government. And then it's not like you flick a switch and everything okay, you kick everything to gear. No. We're unlikely to get action on the pandemic in this country until the spring.
I think this is the start of the downturn in American. Like I think Trump was the catalyst for it. But no, this is definitely like the downturn in. I think like in our arc of a superpower.
Yeah.
I mean, like I just don't know how you recover from this. Like, you know what I mean?
Either. And maybe somebody will surprise us. But
I mean, you think about like we have 2 elections. You think about like the last 2 elections where majorities, were won without having a popular majority, with Bush won and Trump. Like you have we don't have certainty in our election system.
Right.
I mean, that goes back to Bush, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yep. Trump is not like a one-off, or how Trump got elected is not like a one-off. Yeah. I'm sorry for being like all depressed and down in the last call, but it's just like, fucking A.
No, I know.
It's just yeah.
Yep.
It's yeah.
I have, again, I think that's it's so many different levels. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it has been, it started, I've been thinking a lot about, like, I just keep on thinking about the long haul at this point, because I think that's everything that we do in the short term has got to be towards kind of a long-term transformation. I mean, I think that, I think it's hard for everybody to imagine what it looks like, what this kind of, people, I hate this expression, but the new normal is going to be, right? But look, I mean, the new normal, I am hopeful that the new normal will not be returned to the old normal, that the new normal was going to be better, right? And that doesn't mean now America is going to be reclaim its role on the world stage. I don't know if that's possible. What is possible, however, is for us to fundamentally change how we govern and how we understand what a society is for. It's not just like capitalism run wild, military power making people bend to your will, right? The kind of like the brutalization of non-majority communities, right? The vast inequity of wealth, the depriving of people of basic human rights, of the necessities of living. That can't be what we return to. The long-term vision is, and like, look, we've got the activists are already doing this. We've got the squad is kind of like the little like pinprick into that different kind of future, which I think we got to go to. So that's my hopeful part of it.
And the squad is growing.
And it's growing. It's getting bigger. And so, again, I always, if you read history, nothing ever turns on a dime. And Cori Bush was really good about this when she was acknowledging in her victory speech. She's like, this was not built in 6 months. right? And she goes and talks about the organizers and the activists and the organizations that have been part of building towards her victory. And she understands that building movements and change is an arduous process and it takes time. And I think that the more that we can realize that and strap in for the short term and keep our eyes on the long term as we build forward toward a better society, I think that's where we got to go. I'm just hoping that better society has beer, Sean.
Well, it's gonna be hard for me getting beer anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, no car. Well,
No car.
you can. I tell you. Well, free will. Just saying. I'll say this out here. I don't really have kind of like a whole bunch of stuff on beer stuff, but I'll give you some recommendations. I did say this came through my notifications this morning. Free Will has just lowered its free shipping from used to be that it'd be free shipping anywhere in Pennsylvania for $100 or more. They just knocked that down to $85 or more. So if you want to put in a big order, free shipping from Free Will. They've got some great stuff out there. That's a good thing. So I'll give you kind of a few little recommendations that are here. Their newest, they've got a new hazy Indian pale ale. It's called Baleful. I have not had it yet. I've had it, I talked about, I got a shipment from Levante Brewing kind of last week, so I haven't been buying any more recently. But it's a hazy IPA. It's one of their new ones. It is brewed with oats and hopped with Galaxy, Citra, and Lemon Drop, and it's got notes of pineapple whip, melon smoothie, and lemon haze in it. And it comes in at 7.1 ABV. Might be a good one to check out. If I had to give you my top picks, though, however, I know I've been on this train for a while. They still have the strawberry mango mash, and it's really great. If you liked their mashes before, it's super. And my understanding is they got some more mashes that are coming down the pike. There's another one that I want to go over to kind of Levante Brewing, so I'm kind of becoming more and more intrigued with them. I'm trying to prevent myself from trying to do the mail order beer stuff all the time here. But they just announced that they have free shipping on orders over $75. And they have a couple ones that are intriguing. I mentioned this last week, but I want to mention it again, particularly in our context. They have the Black is Beautiful Imperial Stout. This is a collaborative with Weathered Souls Brewing, and this is their description, contains the right amount of booze and sweetness balanced by a depth of toasted malt character. It's a heavy imperial stout that comes in at 11% ABV, so it's pretty hefty. About 100% of the proceeds will be donated to the Juvenile Law Center, where they advocate for the rights, dignity, equity, and opportunity for the youth in the child welfare and justice systems. So that would be one definitely to check out. I have to say I'm very, very intrigued, and I've been dying to try, and I think they're actually out of it now. They had this one, it looks like they're out of it now, so I won't even mention it. Never mind. But one that I've really liked, they do have it in stock. I mentioned this before. It was one of my first deliveries, called Tickle Parts. It's excellent. That's a Northeast IPA. And they got two other new releases that it's called Glitter Parts Mango. It's a mango IPA, and Hop Cartel, which is a double IPA. And I have to say they've got freaking awesome swag too as well. I've got actually wearing their Tickle Parts shirt right now, so you could check them out too as well. And the last brewery that I've been talking a lot about of late has been New Trail Brewing. Do check them out too as well. They've got some new releases up there now. For the page isn't loading for me right now, but do check them out. They've got some great beers. I know they've been producing a whole bunch of new releases, which is fantastic. So we'll do that. Yeah, that's what I got. So, I mean, other than that, I'm doing my best at this point to try to prepare for the fall. I'm teaching all my classes online. I was one of the people that got a waiver to go, and frankly, I'm trying to not let the guilt get me on this, because there are some other people that I am astonished that did not get waivers to teach online. While yes, this is good for me personally, that makes me that much more committed to actually, to fight and have KU turn away from the abyss, because there's some other people that are going to be put in real risk, and their families are going to be put in real risk because of this freaking man that is at the top of the totem pole, so to speak. I shouldn't use that word, the top of the heap in Kutztown. But it is what it is. So now I'm trying to get my technology straight, and I had to order a new computer because there was no way I wasn't going to be able to manage with my computer crashing all the time, especially when I was dealing with video. So we'll see how that goes. I'll try to keep you updated on that as we move closer. But anything else you got to go for the good of the order, Sean?
No, that's pretty much it.
Oh, I do have to ask you though, how's the place shaping up? I see that you've got some like pictures getting ready to be hung on the walls back there and stuff. And,
yeah, they're strategically placed. So
yeah.
they're not like looking. So I can't put anything on the wall right behind me because it's all plaster. Like these two walls, like behind me and next to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna put some posters up. I'm gonna probably get tapestry for the thing in the background, so to have like a big wall cover. So, I mean, it's shaping up fine.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I told you about those little Velcro strips that you can use over there. You can use those.
Yeah, no,
pictures.
I was looking at them on Amazon.
Yeah, they're that's what I actually do in my office at Kutztown. Right, so I take those, and I've got framed pictures up there with them. You get the heavy ones, and then you put. I would recommend the Velcro ones and not the other ones, simply because you can place them better, and they're easy to pull off and then remove it afterwards. So, yeah, command strips, my saviors. I might be posting new images from the studio here at Kutztown, especially. I mean, not at Kutztown, at Raging Chicken. I finally got my lighting right, which I'm very excited about, and I didn't buy any new lighting. Basically, I rigged something up with some of those under cabinet lights that I happen to have hanging around, and tracing paper, and that seemed to do the trick. I was very happy about that. I've also got my green screen stuff, not here for this podcast, but for my course in the fall. I've constructed a green screen situation where I can actually have it broadcast. Use that green screen when I need to. So we got that going too as well, but. I don't know, man. I hope that this weekend has got some good things going on. We may. I should have mentioned this at the top of the show. We're probably not going to have. I probably won't be able to do a show next Friday because my. Well, I don't want to get into personal details, but I'm going to go see my folks up in New York, and probably the last chance we get before the pandemic really hits. And they're fine. They've been isolating. We've been isolating, and I want to see them before. Full school starts. So, Sean and I tried to do it when I was up there before, and we've had bad experiences with the internet. So we're probably just maybe I'll do a replay or something for next week. But I do want to recommend folks tune in on Monday night at 7 p.m. for Out to Coop Live. And again, Steven Singer, the educational activist from out west in PA, and author of Gadfly on the Wall, public school teacher, speaks out on racism reform, will be joining me to talk about back to school in K through 12 and kind of what the pushback looks like. Anything else for the good of the order, Sean?
No, that is pretty much it.
All right, man. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for the folks who kind of showed up on YouTube today. I really appreciate it. We will be back, I guess, in 2 weeks for Out to Coop, but Out to Coop Live will be going forth on Monday at 7. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Hang in there, everybody. Strap in for the long haul. New future awaits us. See ya!
We've been called radicals, terrorists. We've been dismissed as an impossible fringe movement. That's what they called us. But now, we are a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multi-faith mass movement, united in demanding change, in demanding accountability, in demanding that our police, our government, our country recognize that Black lives do indeed matter, and that these are not just words or symbolic gestures, but with concrete actions, and we will measure those with our outcomes. So let me just say, it is historic that this year of all years, we're sending a Black working class single mother who's been fighting for Black lives from Ferguson all the way to the halls of Congress.